Why was Jesus a Stoic? The hidden truth the church doesn't want you to know. Look, if I tell you that Jesus Christ was practically a Stoic philosopher disguised as a Messiah, you'll think I've lost my mind, right? But wait, before calling me a heretic, let me show you something that will blow your mind. The truth is that Jesus spoke exactly like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and all the Stoic crew, but nobody tells you this. Why? Because admitting that Christianity drank from the fountain of Greek philosophy would be kind of embarrassing for some people. But let's get to the facts, right? Jesus and emotional control. Coincidence? I don't think so. Think about it. What's the main teaching of the Stoics? You don't control what happens to you, but you control how you react. Epictetus hammered this all the time. And Jesus, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Dude, that's pure Stoicism. Remember the Lord of the Rings? Gandalf always told Frodo, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. That's exactly what Jesus and the Stoics taught. Focus on what you can control. Ignore the rest. Jesus didn't despair over situations. When they arrested him, what was his reaction? Total serenity. Marcus Aurelius would say, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Jesus practiced this in real life. Indifference to material goods, Jesus versus Marcus Aurelius, now comes the part that will drop your jaw. Jesus said, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, literally the richest guy in the world at the time, wrote, remember that very little disturbs a happy life. Both were saying the same thing. Material attachment is a trap. You know Tyler Durden from Fight Club? The things you own end up owning you. Jesus and the Stoics reached this conclusion 2,000 years before Brad Pitt. And look how interesting, Jesus rejected all material temptations in the desert. Power, wealth, fame, exactly what a Stoic would do. Epictetus said wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few needs. Jesus lived this literally. No house, no possessions, nothing. Love for enemies, the most Stoic move of all. Here's where things get crazy. Jesus commanded, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Seems revolutionary, right? But Marcus Aurelius had already said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. Same strategy. Remember Naruto? The guy converted all the villains just with conversation and compassion. Gaara, Nietzsche, Pain, all became allies. Jesus did the same thing. Instead of retaliating, he transformed hatred into love. The Stoics called this supreme virtue, not letting others' evil corrupt your soul. Seneca wrote, all cruelty springs from weakness. Jesus understood this. That's why he forgave even on the cross. Acceptance of destiny, thy will be done. Now pay attention to this. In Gethsemane, Jesus said, Father, if possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. This is a more fatty love of faith, the most Stoic concept that exists. Nietzsche, who hated Christianity, ironically defined a more fatty as completely accepting your life, including suffering. Jesus did exactly that. Marcus Aurelius said, accept the things you cannot change. Have courage to change the things you can, and wisdom to distinguish one from the other. Yes, that famous phrase is from the Stoics, not Alcoholics Anonymous. Think of Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Jesus had the greatest power of all, but accepted the greatest responsibility, saving humanity through suffering. Pure Stoicism. Tranquility amid chaos. Remember the storm at sea? Disciples panicking, boat sinking, everyone desperate. And Jesus? Sleeping peacefully. When they woke him, his reaction was, why are you afraid? Where is your faith? Epictetus taught it's not events that disturb people, but the judgments they make about them. Jesus wasn't disturbed because he didn't judge the storm as something terrible. To him, it was just a storm. Like Master Yoda, fear leads to the dark side. Jesus had no fear because he had total control over his internal reactions. The wisdom of silence, here's where it becomes obvious that Jesus studied Greek philosophy. When they accused him before Pilate, what was his reaction? Total silence. Pilate was impressed. Won't you answer? Don't you know I have power to release or crucify you? And Jesus, in a totally stoic way, You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Speak only when necessary, and only what is necessary." Jesus mastered this art. Like John Wick, sometimes silence is more powerful than 1,000 words. The truth that will change your perspective, so why? Doesn't anyone talk about this? Simple. Admitting that Jesus was influenced by Greek philosophy breaks the narrative that everything came straight from heaven. But the truth is, this makes Jesus even more impressive. He took the best of human wisdom, Stoicism, and elevated it to a divine level. Seneca said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Jesus was the new beginning that transformed philosophy into religion. And you know what's craziest? If you apply Jesus' Stoic teachings to your life, emotional control, material detachment, love for enemies, acceptance of destiny, you'll live better than 99% of people. Because in the end, it doesn't matter if you call it Stoicism or Christianity. The wisdom is the same. And this wisdom can transform your life today. The only difference is that Jesus promised eternal life as a bonus. Not a bad offer, right?